winners? Let the pros show you how to make money. General Manager Al DeMarco, a regular contributor on Fox Sports, MSNBC, and Comcast Sports TV, brings over 25 years of handicapping experience to the table. CEO Steve Budin, the author of Bets, Drugs, and Rock and Roll, is the man responsible for creating the online betting industry. Together, they lead PickNation.com, your #1 source for winners.
So far this NFL season, it has been a season of the underdogs. And when that happens, when the dogs are barking in Vegas, only two things really are going on. Books are making tons of money and gamblers are losing their shirts. Hi everyone, Al DeMarco here, along with Steve Budin, who is joining me via Skype from Miami because he couldn't make it to the studio because of Hurricane Sandy. And this is the Countdown to Kickoff show, the only nationally televised show that breaks down your top NFL games every single Sunday from a point spread perspective. I'm a former reporter, spent 8 years covering teams, being involved with athletes, and since then, 25 years as a professional handicapper, but the experience I gained from covering teams, covering athletes, being on the field, in the locker rooms, and around them really has shaped my handicapping philosophy. Steve Budin, on the other hand, literally comes from the other side of the fence.
That's right. So, Al, you're the professional gambler. I'm the former largest bookmaker in the world. You got your insight as a journalist covering players in the locker room. Me, on the other hand, they wouldn't let me anywhere near a locker room. In fact, if they found me anywhere close to a locker room, they'd probably arrest me. And even though we come from the opposite sides of the spectrum, we come together on this show to give you both sides of the proverbial fence. Al, listen, I don't know if you've seen the card this week, but I look at it, nothing easy out there to win this week.
No, and we've got some great marquee matchups, thank goodness, after some of these bad matchups we had the last couple of weeks. And I think definitely at this stage of the season, as we approach the midpoint, you're going to start seeing the favorites come in. Never in the history of NFL gambling do you have the underdogs have an overwhelming lead at the end of the season. They're going to go through their streaks and their spurts where the dogs are barking nonstop, but history has shown us that the law of averages always plays, and sooner or later the chalks are going to start coming in. And maybe in this first game, Denver minus the 4 at Cincinnati. Although, Steve, I think it's kind of a dangerous situation here for the Broncos because they played a magnificent end-to-end game for the first time this season last Sunday night at home against the New Orleans Saints. I mean, the defense was outstanding. The offense was hammering New Orleans in that game. Of course, everybody does that against the Saints, but 530 yards, 225 yards rushing for the Broncos in that one. Peyton Manning, 22 for 30, 305 yards. Did hurt his thumb hitting an opponent's helmet in the first half of that contest, but played well in the second half, practiced with no difficulty this week, so I'm assuming that he will be healthy. On the other hand, you've got a Cincinnati Bengals team that's coming off a bye and is in a must-win situation. Problem is, their quarterback, Andy Dalton, you look at his one side of his stat sheet, yeah, he's completed like 64% of his passes. Problem is, he's been intercepted 10 times, and his head coach, Marvin Lewis, called him out earlier this week, expecting some leadership from his quarterback and also his top linebacker coming into this game. But does that matter?
No. As these games get more complicated to analyze, Al, what I like to do is simplify my analysis even more. Bottom line here is the Bengals, they just can't score enough to keep up with this Bronco team. The Broncos, one of the hottest teams in football right now, outscored their opponents 69-14 in the last 6 quarters. Al, you said it earlier, we saw Peyton Manning do something last week that he hasn't done all season long, and that is go wire to wire. There's a lot of chatter out there with my friends worried about a letdown. You alluded to that as well for the Broncos, but I like the Broncos here. I'm laying the 3 and a hook.
I am as well. Listen, this Bengals team has won 6-1 against the spread their last 8 home games. And what really impressed me the most, not even the offensive performance by the Broncos last week, but we know the Saints play no defense, but we know what the Saints can do offensively, and yet they held Drew Brees and company in that contest. I'm just looking at the stat sheet, 252 total yards in the game. So I'm with you. I like Denver in this contest. Listen, guys, before we go any further, you know every single week at PickNation.com, we run a free fantasy football Football League contest. $500 total prize pool, top 20 finish in the money, first place worth $125. And Steve, it's not like old-fashioned fantasy leagues or rotisserie leagues where you had to wait till the end of the season. This is instant gratification.
It really is, Al, and that's why gamblers relate to it so very much. In the past, there was a definite divide between gamblers and fantasy players, and slowly we're seeing those lines blur in between them because fantasy now has become more action-oriented with the results coming out every single week. Now, the key to this contest is one word, and that is free. And the reason that's the key is because that means that you can go and enter this contest every single week, and there's no repercussion because it's absolutely free. The only thing you can do is win.
That's right, guys. So go to picknation.com, click on the ads. You've got until 1 o'clock Eastern Time on Sunday to finalize your roster. You get a $100,000 mythical salary cap. You've got to draft a couple of quarterbacks, a couple of running backs, etc. Put together a team. Last week we had the closest finish in the 2 years we've been running the free fantasy football league contest. First and second place finishers divided by 6/100ths of a point. 1.5 points separating first place and third place. So check it out. As Steve said, it is free over at picknation.com. Next game is going to be Miami and Indianapolis. And Steve, you, of course, are in Miami. You get a real sense of what the Dolphins are up to. You weren't surprised that they went to New York and beat up the Jets last week, even though Tannehill was hurt. Matt Moore had to come in. But I look at this Miami team, and they only had 236 yards offense in that contest. They did capitalize on 4 Jets turnovers in the game. But I think the wrong team is favored here. I don't think the Colts, who are coming off the overtime win against Tennessee, are getting any respect considering they are 3-1 against the spread at home this season.
Right, both of these teams had impressive wins on the road last week, and both of these teams, Al, are overachievers, and that's what makes this game so tough to pick. I think Miami, like I said last week, is a damn good team, but not because they beat the Jets. I mean, everybody can beat the Jets. That's no big deal. They're a good team because they stop the run, and when you can neutralize the run, you can focus on the pass. That's going to make things tough for Andy Luck here. I think Miami has the edge because they're a more complete team at this point than the Colts. I'm going to go with Miami here, minus the 2.5. I'm riding the fish.
Okay, total disagreement with you. I'm going to take the Colts as the home dog in this particular spot. One thing that I've really been impressed with Indianapolis is the development of their ground game. I'm looking at the stats here. Last week, not only did they have 457 total yards against Tennessee, but 171 of them came on the ground, as Vic Ballard had 55, Donald Brown had 80, and their contributions make Andrew Luck all the more dangerous. Plus, I think it's a letdown spot for the Dolphins. They were coming off a bye. It was a division game last week against a team that had nipped them in overtime, a game that they should have won at home. I think this is the letdown. I think the Colts are playing some great ball, and I don't care about the fact that Miami has covered 8 of its last 9 on the road. I just think sometimes you have to totally ignore the trends. Hey, Steve, you know, here at picknation.com, you can get my best bet today, your latest best bet from your Baltimore crew, and all the plays from all the handicappers for free, simply by checking out the 1-day all-access free trial pass at picknation.com.
Right, well, this is unique to our site, Al, and there's a reason that we do it, no one else does it. First of all, everyone else, they don't want you to see what's behind the curtain. They're worried about that. They want to take your money first and have you ask questions later. On the other hand, we're the exact opposite. We encourage you to come, take a look, see exactly what we do, see our picks, see the analysis, see the best analysts in the world collectively, and then when you have the confidence after seeing everything, then we ask you to put your hand in your wallet and become part of the crew.
And guys, when we say free, we mean free. You're getting my best bet, Steve's top crew play, the plays of every single handicapper at the site, over $500, $600, $700 of action for free, simply by checking out the 1-day all-access pass at picknation.com. Next game, Steve, is going to be Baltimore and Cleveland. Break up the Browns after losing 12 out of 13. They pull off the upset last week, 7-6 at home against a bad San Diego team that was not accustomed to playing in the inclement weather and blustery, windy conditions there in Cleveland. Now you've got a Baltimore team that has owned this series. Ravens coming off a bye. We remember what happened the last time Baltimore was in action too. They went to Houston and they got hammered. Their last road game, unimpressive 9-6 win at Kansas City prior to the Houston debacle. Can the Ravens rebound? Because I'm looking at this game and I'm seeing a discounted price at 3.5, where if they hadn't been blown out of Houston, I think they would have been laying 6.5.
Right, well, that's the value, and I know the Browns got the win last week at home, holding San Diego to only 6 points, but the fact is, they only scored 7 points. Was it enough to win? Yes. Was it enough to cover? Yes. Will it be enough to beat Baltimore? Hell no. They're going to need more than one score to beat this Raven team. But Al, the way the Ravens have been playing defense lately, that might just be plausible. I think I'm on the Brownies here, plus 3.5 points.
Well, that'll make all the viewers that are watching us on Sports Time Ohio very happy, but I think you're wrong. I'm going to give one more shot to the Ravens. I'm not putting my money on them, but I'll give Baltimore one more shot. Listen, they are on a nice run in this series. They've won 9 in a row straight up in the series. They've also won the first meeting this season 23-16, but that was a Thursday night affair. It was kind of a letdown game for them as well, and they didn't cover the spread. They also are 8-1 against the spread off the bye, and they expect to have Terrell Suggs playing full-time, which will obviously help their pass rush. The problem with Baltimore defense, as I told you all season long, they've been getting by on reputation. This is not a great Baltimore defense. In fact, it's one of the worst in the NFL. Can't stop the run either. So if Trent Richardson can peel off some yardage, I think it's good. But again, I think it's a discounted price, so I'm going to go ahead and lay it with Baltimore in this spot. Last game in this first half of our program is going to be, speaking of the Houston Texans, they are back off of their bye, laying 10.5 against Buffalo. I think, Steve, they could be laying 20.5, and you still have to take the Texans.
Right, well, this Buffalo team, Al, they got a glass jaw. That's why we see them as a double digit here. They've been knocked out more than Jerry Cooney, and it doesn't get any easier for them this week at Houston. This is a team, the Buffalo Bills, that's lost by 20 or more in 7 of their last 15 games. And let's not forget, the Buffalo Bills are coming off their absolute best performance last week in the bye. This game is all Houston. I'm laying the big wood once again.
Now listen, you know, Houston, their last 2 home games, they got annihilated by Green Bay, and then they annihilated Baltimore the following week. But the thing with the Houston Texans is this. Their last 10 wins, and I'm talking straight up wins at home, they've won those games by an average of 18 points a game. They've covered those games by an average of 11 points a game. They're laying 10.5 here against Buffalo. We saw what happened to the Buffalo Bills when they took on a team like New England with Tom Brady throwing the ball like crazy. We saw what happened when San Francisco ran the ball and passed the ball for over 300 yards in each department against this defense. Now you've got Matt Schaub, Andre Johnson. They should light it up through the air. You've got Arian Foster being able to handle the ground duties as well. I just don't see this Buffalo defense, which is ranked dead last in the NFL, 32nd in the league, giving up 176.9 yards a game, which translates to 6 yards a carry. Steve, even in your shape, I think you could get 3.5 yards a pop against this Bills defense.
I'm not in bad shape compared to you. But the other truth is, Al, is that, you know, when good teams play bad teams, if you're going to be that guy that looks at every question as a trick question and tries to bet on the bad teams and sneak a backdoor cover, you're going to be going into your wallet a lot more often than most.
And listen, guys, I have always maintained in my 25 years of doing this, the one thing that holds true is you never put good money on bad teams, and Buffalo is the absolute definition of a bad team. So go ahead, if you're going to bet the game, lay it with the Houston Texans. Guys, we are going to be returning in just a moment. First game back, Washington and Carolina. We'll catch you in just a second.